Okay, so this is part 2 of the video. Um, Found a bunch of differences on this thing, actually. I got the blower bolted up. I haven't done the snorkel or anything yet, but I'll point out some of the differences. Sorry about not having a step-by-step, but just got a little bit of a time constraint here, and I'm trying to get it done as soon as I can. Okay, so basically, some of the differences I found out. The spark plugs, I don't know if I repeated all of this stuff already once before in the first video, I'm sorry, but I'll just go through the list again. The spark plugs are one heat range colder, so they're going to need to get changed. The spark plug wires on the on the driver's side, I'm sorry, are different because they need to be shorter. So you can either reuse, if you have a donor vehicle, you can reuse that set or just get a set for a supercharged one. I'm just going to reuse the ones off the donor for this one. I did the knock sensor relocation on the engine previously when it was naturally aspirated. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to try it right here, but being as how this is got a funky little spring clutch kind of system inside the supercharger, because it's not a spring tensioner on the belt. It's a manually adjustable belt. So they actually put the slack adjuster to absorb some of the vibration inside the nose cone on these. Because of that, I am kind of wondering if, when that thing starts knocking around, if it's going to maybe throw a false knock. But one way to find out, I guess. So I may have to relocate that again. But I didn't want to keep the one under the intake manifold. That's just stupid, and it's way too close to the center line of the motor, and they get false knocks. So either way, it's going to get relocated somewhere. Let's see, the passenger side valve cover is different, and the reason for that is right here. You can just barely see it. The PCV nipple that comes off of that and goes up to the back of the blower, that actually has a PCV valve in it. The original valve cover did not, and also it was angled, and that one goes straight back. So that's going to need to get changed. What else? Let's see. Also, the coolant bypass pipes, as well as the vacuum routing pipes that go underneath the snorkel, or if on the natural aspirated one, it goes underneath the intake manifold, the upper plenum. Those all need to get swapped over. You have to reuse the ones from, or get the ones from a supercharged vehicle, because they all bolt to the snorkel, not to the upper plenum on the other style. So that's got to get changed. The no EGR versus EGR problem, two ways of going around it. Either way, I'm probably going to have a check engine light, because my computer is going to be looking for an EGR and it's not going to have one. So what I figured I'm going to do is, because of this whole COVID-19 thing, I can't get out to the store to, nobody's open right now to get a pipe plug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the pipe that goes down there, right there where the tip of my finger is. The EGR pipe comes out of the driver's side exhaust manifold and comes up right there. I'm just going to cut it a little bit, hammer it flat, fold it, hammer it flat again. That'll seal it. Just temporary. Eventually I'll put a pipe plug in it. But it's metric thread. It's not NPT. And so you got to do some homework as to figure out what's going on with that. Also, I found out, to do with the pulleys, the crank pulley does need to be swapped over. That is different. It is a 6-rib belt instead of a 5-rib belt for the supercharger, the front pulley on the crank, or the front section of the crank pulley, and also the AC compressor. But I started looking at things, and on the Frontier and Xterras, the bracket right here for the air conditioning compressor is different, totally different. It'll bolt on the motor, but the problem is that the power steering pump on my truck, the QX4 Pathfinders, it actually bolts underneath the AC compressor, and on the Frontier and Xterra, it goes over where the alternator is. Those are actually swapped on these trucks. I'm guessing that you could probably swap the clutch and the pulley from each compressor, or possibly reuse the compressor itself from the Xterra or Frontier, and it might go onto this bracket. But for my deal, what I found out, or what I've decided to do, at least for now, and see if it works, is I'm going to run the original belt, well, at least for the number of ribs. I'm sure I'm going to have to play around with the sizes, because I'm kind of in uncharted territory here. But I'm going to try and use just 5 ribs on the supercharger pulley, as well as the front crank pulley. So I'll be utilizing the whole width of the AC compressor and 1 rib shy on the supercharger and the front of the crank. These are pretty low boost. I think the way that they are with the stock pulley is like 8 pounds, 7 or 8 pounds maybe, depending on what the bypass valve's set up like. I might do some homework and figure out what I can do to crank that up a little bit. But for right now, I'm going to try it and see if I don't get any slippage. The good thing about a mechanical adjustable belt is I can just tweak it, tighten it up a little bit, and I'm sure it'll probably not slip. I don't foresee any issues. I don't think 1 rib is really going to make a difference too much. And the pulleys do line up. It'll just be, I want to say it's going to be towards the back instead of towards the front. It's one or the other, obviously. But the other thing I noticed is on your front plate right here, when this bolts up, if you notice right here, see the little yellow mark I got right there? You actually have to notch. It's only about off by like a half a hole. The bottom hole right there lines up. The one over here lines up. But that third one, you gotta just notch the bracket and just put a bolt in. That'll hold it 3 places. And then I think that'll work out just fine for me. So basically, I'm going to try that and see if that holds up and works good. Also, the thermostat is different. I don't know if I mentioned this before. It's I think it's a 180 instead of a 195 for the naturally aspirated. I think you got to use a 180 on these, so I changed the thermostat out. As far as I know, for right now anyway, that's going to be the only differences. And then I'm definitely going to need to cut a hole in the hood. I got some ideas on that, but it's definitely going to have to get some clearance. I'll show you a side shot here a little bit and you'll see what I'm talking about. If I go down right about there is where the fenders, the top of the fenders is, so that, basically would be the top of the hood as well. It does bump up a little bit, but not that much. So yeah, you're gonna need a hole in the hood. I'm guessing probably from at least the 5th rib of the supercharger forward to the AC line is probably where I'm going to cut. The back of it seems like it'll fall underneath just fine. So that's the update for now. Part 3, I'll have it a little more together for you.